Welcome to Leaders Legacy. I'm your host Varsha Sarkar and welcome to today's episode. Our title for today's episode is How to Turn Your Teams into Brand Ambassadors. Our guest for today is Pradeep Bangalore, who is the Senior Director HR at Kudelski Group. Welcome to our show, Pradeep.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Varsha.
How are you doing?
Doing well so far, and how about you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Pradeep, I wanted to ask you, since you are in a leadership position, how exactly do you motivate your team to become advocates for your company's brand?
A very good question, Varsha. So, to answer this question, I will take a step back and talk to you about a real life incident as to how I became an advocate of branding and what is the kind of philosophy I have towards it so that I encourage my team members or the advocacy that I have that the team members or my employees become brand ambassadors. This goes to way back, in my high school days when my father, who is a banker, used to take me around visiting industrial units on my summer break. And in one such industrial unit that he took me, and this was in Pondicherry, it was a shampoo making industry. So I was very excited to see how the shampoos are made, the different machineries that were going on, and etc. And towards the last, right, there were two pipes, one pipe
Mhm.
going to the left-hand side and the other pipe going to the right-hand side. So I asked the question, why are there two pipes? I mean, it's the outlet and there should naturally be one, etc. So
Mhm.
the manufacturer told me that is where the difference is, because towards the end, the change that we do is in the perfume that we use for the shampoos.
Mhm.
And one, I wouldn't take names because both of them are in the market today. And it
Yes.
is this famous black shampoos, right? I mean, or etc. So no names taken. One was a very low end, a very economical brand, and the other one was a very high end, very expensive kind of a brand. And everything remained the same except the last bit where the perfume was a little different for each of them. And the price depended on what stamp or what brand or what image that went in the final packaging of it. And I think that was the first lesson, that you may have substance, you may have a lot to speak about, you may be the best
Mhm.
person, the service that is there. But if you do not have the right messaging, if you do not have the right packaging, when I mean packaging, need not necessarily be a physical package. From this cue, very early in my life, I go on understanding what is the legacy of the organization, where have we started from, and the ability to storytell and the ability to instill pride in my team members or the employees that work in the organization to kind of say what is the value and thereby what is the impact that they have on the organization, instills that pride, a sense of belonging, and they become the natural advocates of the brand itself. So that is my philosophy behind making my team members or my
That's
employees.
amazing. Can you share personal success stories where you saw that employees have turned into brand ambassadors and that in result has given the company success? The company has grown as a result of that.
Very important question. Again, taking cue from the current organization that I work
Mm-hmm.
with, right? So this is way back in 2020 during the first lockdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were so unprepared. We didn't know what was happening. The COVID wave just happened rampantly. We were trying to understand what the world
Mm-hmm.
around us is going to be. Very difficult times, not only professionally, but personally to most of us as well. Um, and my team and I mean, this was, I think we had about 6 months. I mean, it started in March. My team and I decided to just give a call to each employee and have a no agenda, just a heart to heart. How are you doing? Do you need anything from us? Are you safe? If you want to talk to somebody, we are there with you. This is our number. We are just a phone call away,
Mm-hmm.
kind of a scenario, right? And I think that one phone call of just how are you doing, and it came naturally, right? Because
Right.
most of the people in the organization are youngsters staying in PG, staying alone outside their home. I'm not sure if they were getting proper food, not
Mm-hmm.
sure having proper facilities to kind of cater to them, we were naturally concerned, and we plan to reach out to everybody and ask this very simple, and especially when you get a call from HR, oh, there must be something, right? It's an agenda. I think that changed the outlook of our employees towards how this organization.
Mm-hmm.
We are truly humane. We truly, consider people first as people,
Mm-hmm.
not as resources. Uh,
Yes.
I think that is what impacted, that they were ready to. Even today, to this day, even after 3 years, that is cited as one thing that the company cared for. And I think
Mm-hmm.
personal commitment that happens right through various means, and this was what, and people who were there, I mean, and it worked in a lot of ways. Let it be retention.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do not want to use those HR jargons, but it really worked wonders in terms of how they saw us as an organization, and thereby their outlook towards us.
Right. I actually related to what you answered. I came across a post on LinkedIn which said that people not only go to a company for the salary alone, but for the culture as well. So,
Right.
if you had to design the company's culture so that the employees naturally become brand ambassadors, what would you do?
Okay. So, as I said, right, I do not believe in force fitting anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I were to take cue of what is culture, right? How do we define culture, or what is culture, etc.? It is nothing but a belief system, a
Right.
value system, our ways of working, and our various processes that are associated with it, right? If I were to design the culture, um, and I were to kind of say what culture employees would thrive in, then I would just say, you should allow the employees to bring themselves, the comprehensive themselves, to
Mm-hmm.
work, being very honest, candid about what is possible, what is not possible. Bring the two sense of transparency in your communication, right? Even
Yeah.
during difficult times, if you're transparent, if you're honest, and if it's from the heart,
Mm-hmm.
right, people will tend to believe, and people will stand behind you, right?
Right.
The company is not doing well, so people won't jump ship if you're
Mm-hmm.
if you show the vulnerability side of you, and have this very honest kind of conversation with them and say, hey, this is what it is. I think it all stems from how do you treat your people, right?
Exactly.
Today, we talk about candidate experience, we talk about employee experience, we talk about ways of working, and various other things.
Mhm.
Workshops, every company organization have their values. But to me, what would translate is what it actually means. If I say being humane is one of the value that I hold most,
Mhm.
treat employee who had to exit, not
Mhm.
in normal circumstance, maybe during difficult times, his or her role may be redundant, his or her performance might not be up to the mark, and we had to let go. What are the kind of processes that you get, right?
True.
Even, for example, the candidates, right? And when we kind of do what do you call, mass, not mass, you have drives, right? And
Mhm.
what happens is, they would come in the morning, and certain times the process stretches, whatever reasons, maybe because we were not prepared, maybe because we had too many people whom we didn't anticipate.
Uh-huh.
People get frustrated sometimes, but in my experience, if you have just gone and asked, I'm sorry that it is taking time, appreciate your patience, would you like to have some tea, coffee, or
Mhm.
basic, like as though you would treat somebody who would come to your home as a guest, right? And that is what matters. So for me, uh, how you treat your employees, the value systems that you have, not only employees, anybody, all stakeholders,
Mhm.
let it be anybody who have any sort of a professional relationship with us and who want to talk to us on various things, how you approach them, how you treat them. Because what I believe, and strongly so, is people will not remember what you did. People will remember how you did it, how you treated them, and that will go a long way.
As a leader, we always say, right, leaders have to lead by example. So, how exactly would you lead by example so that your employees become brand ambassadors willingly so?
Okay. See, leadership is ultimately about leverage, right?
Hmm.
That is my belief. So um, when I speak about positively about the organization, which I truly believe, otherwise I will be just be doing a leadership talk or an HR talk and etc.
Yes,
Show my vulnerability, saying, "Hey, I think yes, that is true. There is nothing that we can do here."
right.
Uh, being honest about okay, so sometimes there is this cliche that goes around saying we will get back to you,
Ah,
right?
yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, yes. I might have used it sometimes. Yes.
I mean, even I have used it when I was younger, but
Yeah.
it becomes a joke, right? Oh, you HR coming back, we would know, and things like that. Now
Yeah.
that's good me and say that. No, I changed my strategy, right? If I already know the answer, then I would
Mm.
say sorry,
Yes.
forward. And otherwise, if I do not know the answer, then I would say, hey, I don't know the answer, but if
Hmm.
my team or I do not respond to you or do not come back to you, please take it for granted that you're not shortlisted at this particular point in time. So there is a closure, right?
Right.
All of us would appreciate a closure when we are talking about certain things. So and for me, leadership is not about position or title. Leadership
Hmm.
is behaviors.
Right.
It could be as simple as rubbing the board after your meeting, switching off the lights, being very courteous to your team members or your stakeholders. And I think these behaviors is what I incorporate at my work. uh,
Hmm.
and good behavior is contagious, right?
Right. Yes.
They would pick up a few things, and certain times I would talk about things on my LinkedIn. Like, for example, this is something that I'm doing it with you, right? And I'm sure my
Hmm.
employer would kind of see it, and then they would like make comments, and then they would kind of propagate this message throughout, or they would our managers would have these behaviors inculcated when they would do their meetings. And so you cannot have a strategy behind it, you cannot have an agenda behind it. I believe that becomes a value system, that becomes your way of working, and thereby how as a leader you can inculcate those behaviors in others.
Can you share examples of a few creative campaigns? I'm pretty sure being in HR, you must have done many campaigns where employees are engaged and that enhance the company's brand.
Okay. Um, so this is what I always thought, right? I mean, in organizations today, we spend so much time. I mean, now, of course, all the hybrid and people are now coming back,
Hmm.
etc. Um, okay, I'll give you one very specific example. So in the recent past, when all the employees started coming back to work, I mean, after the
Hmm.
COVID times, personally, professionally, the usual social capital was missing, the interactions. We are all social beings, right? We like to,
Hmm.
etc. They used to come to work, they used to do their due diligence, they used to go back, but the element of fun was missing.
Oh.
The element of fun was missing for various reasons, that we couldn't get together, we couldn't this, etc. And as the time normalized, we decided that we will celebrate every festival in in the organization. We will have all the hobby clubs, that people want. We will have all the fun, all the sports activities,
Hmm.
right? That is possible to be played,
Right.
and wherever that we will. Because for me, along with a rational commitment that engages the employee to an organizational,
Hmm.
emotional commitment also plays a huge role, right?
Right.
Usually people joke about, I'm sorry for speaking in Hindi, but HR Rangoli competition to hua hi hoga. Uh, but for me, Rangoli competitions are important. I mean,
Hmm.
very well known, because this gets people together, and in
Right.
that formal events, in those people where they share, and people do participate, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
irrespective whether what they tell HR of Rangoli competitions, etc., people do participate, men and women. I mean, this is
Right.
like people may say, ah, no, no, and all of it, but we have seen it, right?
Yes.
But people do participate, and people do participate very competitively to kind of say, hey, kiska Rangoli, is good.
Yes, yes, definitely.
What we don't appreciate is the social gathering that happens towards Rangoli competition, the laughters, the getting together of people with no agenda,
Yes.
celebration, the competitiveness, the team spirits, and
Mm-hmm.
various other soft skills, etc., that happens, right?
Right.
And I think that is the agenda behind a Rangoli competition and not.
Yes.
And I mean, Rangoli competition, definitely not, right? So we have the
Yes.
Bikers Club today, we have the Movie Lovers Club, we have the Trekkers Club, we have our sports is like a big thing, right? We from
Mm-hmm.
football, carom to table tennis, people come together, and naturally there is a sense of celebration, a sense of triumph that
Right.
percolated to being happy at workplace,
Mm-hmm.
and that being percolated to sharing of pictures on all social media, talking about the company as a brand and what we are currently doing. And happy employee is a retained employee and a highly productive employee. And I think that answers your question in terms of strategy. You don't have to do anything.
Right.
Things is, I mean, like the example that I shared previously about just giving a call and say, hey, how are you doing, right? Small things goes a long way. And you don't have to even strategize and say, oh, how will I turn? They naturally become brand ambassadors.
How do you envision the role of brand ambassadorship evolving in the future of work?
um yeah, that becomes very important because these brand ambassadors, for example, okay, today we go to certain platforms, without taking the names, right, to kind of understand what this organization is all about, what is the rating it has received, what are the kind of pros and cons that the people have called out in
Mm-hmm.
apps and things like that, right? And they're true, and we must do that homework, right? And every
Yes.
time there are certain organizations which have a huge brand recall, there are certain organizations that do not have a brand recall, right? For example,
Mm-hmm.
organization that I'm currently in, although in Europe it's a 75-year-old organization, in India we are on the 13th year of its operations, and we are truly an MNC, and all of that. We don't have a brand recall. And when
Mm-hmm.
recall, people tend to be a little apprehensive. People will tend to, what is this kind of an organization? What are they into? How do they treat their employees?
Mm-hmm.
And certain times, they will look for answers, right? They
Right.
might know anybody there, right? They might look for answers through various platforms, uh,
Right.
and sending out the right messages on those platforms to kind of say, hey, this is who we are, this is what we do,
Right.
what helps. Certain times in these social organizations, what happens is when you're disgruntled, right, is
Mm-hmm.
go and voice out your opinions. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
happy employee or an ex-employee or a candidate wouldn't make that effort, right? Basically,
Mm-hmm.
they a good time with you or something like that. So
Right.
it's negative feedback that gets captured and not necessarily.
Yes, yes. It could be on Glassdoor. Like I have seen so many people come there and posting simply negative reviews. It's quite
Exactly.
hard to find something positive there.
Yeah, and you wouldn't find people with positive experience making that effort. It's only the people
Yes.
who are not, who do not have a good experience, and it needs to
Mm.
be a balance of both.
Yes.
And that is why we kind of uh, tell any prospective candidates, employees, ex-employees, and that is why we are talking about alumni network. People
Mm-hmm.
talk about their true experiences when they were with the organization or when they were called for an interview, or the kind of experiences that they have, because people out there know uh,
Mm-hmm.
what is the ways of working, what the culture of the organization is, and what is the
Yes.
what it is, because they can make an informed decision of saying,
Right.
this organization is something I can thrive. This answers to my value system, and this is like,
Mm-hmm.
or this is not something that I would be willing. And they can make an informed decision like that. So it is very important in terms of how one would voice out, and this brand ambassadorship is being taken in the futuristic sense of work also.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you so much, Pradeep, for this wonderful conversation. I got to learn a lot about employee engagement and brand ambassadorship. Thank you so much for coming to our show. This concludes our episode. If you liked it, please do like, subscribe, and follow our channel, Leaders Legacy. Until next time.